Have you ever wondered about the man behind the mouse? The genius who turned a simple cartoon character into a global empire? Today, we're diving deep into the incredible and often turbulent life of Walt Disney. This isn't just a story about success. It's a powerful lesson in resilience, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of a dream, even when everyone tells you it's impossible. Walter Elias Disney was born in Chicago in 1901. From a young age, he had a passion for drawing. He'd sketch animals on his family's farm in Missouri, finding magic in the ordinary. But his early life wasn't a fairy tale. His father was a strict disciplinarian, and the family often struggled financially. Young Walt even worked as a paperboy at 4:30 a.m. before school, a tough grind that instilled in him a work ethic that would define his entire life. After serving as an ambulance driver in France at the end of World War I, where he covered his vehicle in cartoons, he returned to the U.S. determined to make a living from his art. He moved to Kansas City and started his first company, Laugh-O-Gram Studio. Things seemed promising at first. He hired other animators, including his good friend Ubi Iwerks, and they produced a series of short animated fairy tales. But despite their creativity, the business was a financial disaster. At just 22 years old, Walt was bankrupt. He was so broke he reportedly ate dog food to survive. He had failed. But for Walt, failure was never the end. It was just a very painful lesson. With only a few dollars in his pocket and his unfinished cartoon reel, he bought a one-way train ticket to Hollywood. He knew that's where the movie industry was booming. He and his brother Roy pooled their money, setting up a studio in their uncle's garage. This was the humble beginning of the Disney Brothers Studio. They started by creating the Alice Comedies, a series that cleverly combined a live-action girl with an animated world. It was a modest success and kept the studio afloat. Then came a character that would change everything. Or so he thought. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was a hit. Audiences loved him. But when Walt went to his distributor, Charles Mintz, to negotiate a better contract, he was hit with a brutal reality. Mintz not only refused to give him more money, but he also revealed that he had poached most of Walt's animators and, crucially, owned the rights to Oswald. Walt was left with practically nothing. On the long, lonely train ride back to California, he was devastated but not defeated. It was on that very train trip that a new idea began to form. A mouse. A cheerful, plucky little mouse he initially named Mortimer. His wife, Lillian, suggested a friendlier name, Mickey. Mickey Mouse wasn't an overnight sensation. The first two silent Mickey cartoons, Plain Crazy and The Gallopin' Gaucho, failed to find a distributor. At this point, many would have given up. But Walt saw the dawn of a new era in film, sound. He decided to risk everything on a third Mickey cartoon, Steamboat Willie, meticulously synchronizing the animation with music and sound effects. It was an incredibly difficult and expensive gamble. He even had to sell his car to fund the production. The sound, the character, the personality, it was pure magic. Mickey Mouse became an international star, and Walt Disney was finally on the map. But Walt was never one to rest on his laurels. He was a relentless innovator. While others were content making short cartoons, Walt was dreaming bigger. He created the Silly Symphonies series to experiment with new techniques, color, and storytelling. One of these, Flowers and Trees, was the first ever full-color animated cartoon and won him his first Academy Award. He also pioneered the multiplane camera, a revolutionary device that added a sense of depth and realism to animation, making flat drawings feel like a three-dimensional world. Then came his most audacious idea yet, a full-length animated feature film. In the 1930s, this was unheard of. The industry scoffed, calling it Disney's folly. They believed no one would sit through a 90-minute cartoon. They said the bright colors would hurt people's eyes. The project, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, went wildly over budget, pushing the studio to the brink of bankruptcy once again. Walt mortgaged his house and borrowed heavily to finish it. He was betting the entire company on this one film. When Snow White premiered in 1937, the audience, filled with Hollywood's biggest stars, gave it a standing ovation. The film was a colossal success, becoming the highest-grossing film of its time. Disney's folly became Disney's triumph. It proved that animation could be a serious art form, capable of telling complex emotional stories that resonated with audiences of all ages. The success of Snow White ushered in Disney's golden age, with classics like Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. Each film pushed the boundaries of animation. Fantasia, in particular, was a bold artistic experiment, merging classical music with abstract and narrative animation. It wasn't a commercial success at first, but it showcased Walt's commitment to innovation over easy profits. However, challenges were always around the corner. An animator's strike in 1941 deeply hurt Walt, who saw his studio as a family. World War II then commandeered the studio for propaganda and training films, halting feature film production. The post-war years were lean, but Walt's resilience shone through. He diversified, moving into live-action films like Treasure Island and nature documentaries, which won numerous awards. But even with all this success, Walt was already dreaming of his next and perhaps greatest innovation. He was tired of the dirty, unsafe amusement parks he took his daughters to. He envisioned a new kind of park, a place where parents and children could have fun together. A clean, safe, magical world where his stories came to life. Again, everyone thought he was crazy. Banks refused to lend him money. His own company's board rejected the idea. So what did Walt do? He did what he always did. He bet on himself. He sold personal assets, borrowed against his life insurance, and even started a television show, Disneyland, partly to promote and fund his vision for the park. In 1955, Disneyland opened its gates. The opening day was a chaotic disaster, infamously known as Black Sunday. Counterfeit tickets led to massive overcrowding, rides broke down, and the fresh asphalt on Main Street melted in the summer heat. Critics were quick to predict another failure. But Walt and his team worked tirelessly, fixing the problems. Soon, Disneyland wasn't just a success. It was a cultural phenomenon. It redefined the entire concept of a theme park, creating an immersive experience that was unlike anything else in the world. Even in his later years, Walt never stopped innovating. He was instrumental in the 1964 New York World's Fair, developing groundbreaking attractions like It's a Small World and the first audio animatronics figure in Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. These weren't just rides. They were sophisticated blends of technology and storytelling. His final dream was even grander, the Florida Project, which would become Walt Disney World. It wasn't just another theme park. It was his vision for a utopian city of the future, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, or Epcot. Sadly, Walt Disney passed away in 1966 before he could see this final ambitious dream fully realized. But his legacy is immeasurable. It's not just the films, the parks, or the characters. It's the spirit of relentless innovation, the courage to take massive risks, and the incredible resilience to bounce back from failure time and time again. From a bankrupt artist eating dog food to the creator of a global entertainment empire, Walt Disney's life shows us that with enough imagination and perseverance, you can turn even the wildest dreams into reality. He truly was a master of making the impossible possible. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this look into the life of a true visionary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories about the people who changed our world. See you in the next one.